Hi, Kerry again at Best of Us in retirement. I did a video over on Best of Us investors on February 19th of 2020 talking about the retirement crisis and explaining the demographics that 79 million of us baby boomers are going to be retiring over the next 20 years, and the strain it's going to be that's going to put on our retirement system, our Social Security, and in particular our pension programs. And I think it's pertinent to this channel, which is about those people who are retiring, that you understand the dynamics of the pressure that we, the baby boomers, are putting on our financial system and how it's all going to shake out and what you need to do to come out of it the best you can. Again, this is our second half. This is the best part of our lives. So we really need to understand it. And so I want you to see this video. Again, it was February. It was before the pandemic, so things have changed dramatically. But I think this is important, and I want you to see it. I've done a couple videos on what I've called the coming retirement crisis, and we've talked specifically about real estate, and we've alluded to how that might affect the overall stock market and the overall economy. What I want to talk to you about today, though, is something that a lot of people aren't real familiar with, particularly younger people, and that is the crisis that's going to be created as a result of what is used to be called defined benefit plans, or also referred to as pensions. They were a part of our business work schedule, or whatever you want to call it, for years. That you would graduate from high school, you'd go to work or go to the military, you'd come out, you'd go to work for a company. They would pay you, and then they would guarantee you a lifetime income through a pension. And my Uncle Fred is a good example of this. He spent several years in the Army right after World War II, came out and went to work for General Electric, and worked for the rest of his working days at General Electric, and then retired and got a pension. Fred is now 92 years old. He started his pension probably somewhere around 60. He's made more off of General Electric in his retirement than he ever did in his working years. Well, back in the late 70s, the 80s, most corporations, including General Electric, recognized that this was a trap, that longevity was causing people to live longer, that through technology they were having fewer workers, and so the formula wasn't going to work. So for the most part, most corporations abandoned, but had to grandfather some people into the pension program. The one part of our society that did not was the public section, and that includes states and federal workers, and that included everything from policemen to firemen to administrators, teachers, and then on the federal level, all federal employees. Well, now, why would they keep it? Well, they were both, for the most part, controlled by unions. And unions recognized that this new plan, under which the risk of retirement income was literally being transferred from the corporation to the employee through the advent of 401ks and IRAs and SEPs and things of that nature. And they recognized that that wasn't going to work out for them personally. The other thing that was involved was, particularly within the unions, they managed that money. You need to watch the new Martin Scorsese movie called The Irishman, and it goes into what happened to Jimmy Hoffa as a part of it. And Jimmy Hoffa was the head of the Teamsters Union, and the Teamsters Union had a huge pension program which they managed. Now, most pension programs were designed to be invested in what was called corporate grade bonds, and you would get somewhere around a 7% return on the bonds. It was safe. There was very little risk in it. But as you and I know, the day of corporate bonds with 7% are a thing of the past. What we also know is that it isn't predictable. It isn't consistent. So this is nothing new, and our current president has not spoken to it, but the past presidents have. Here's George Bush and Barack Obama speaking to the problem.
Retirement. 2, I do not believe we should raise payroll taxes to try to fix the system. 3, I do believe younger workers ought to be allowed to take some of their own money, some of their own payroll taxes, and on a voluntary basis set up a personal savings account. The crisis is now.
After a lifetime of hard work, you should be able to retire with dignity and a sense of security. And in today's economy, that's gotten tougher. Most workers don't have a traditional pension. A Social Security check often isn't enough on its own. And while the stock market is doing well right now, that doesn't help folks who don't have retirement accounts. As a consequence, too few Americans at or near retirement have saved enough to have peace of mind.
This has turned into a major problem, and it's a problem in that there is tremendous underfunding of the future obligations. That is to say, is there enough money there to create a cash flow to pay for all the baby boomers who are in retirement and the wave that is coming that are going to be in a retirement. Now this is, again, it's not the ones with the 401ks and the IRAs, it's the ones with the pension plans. On a state level, amounts to what the states collectively tell us today as an obligation of roughly $1.4 trillion. That's trillion, not billion. You take billion, you multiply it times 1,000, that's trillion. But those people who study these things say that's an under-guess. They're not projecting far enough out, and it's actually more like a $4 trillion obligation. Now, it varies from state to state. Some states have 37 cents on the dollar. That would be Kentucky. Kentucky has 37 cents for every dollar that they have programmed to distribute in the future. And you can see on this map, you can find yours. Kentucky, Illinois, New Jersey are approaching bankruptcy. They just don't have the money to meet their obligations. So what are their choices? Their choices are to either raise state taxes to fund their pension plans, or to decrease services so they can route some of the current taxes towards those pension obligations. So if you're going into retirement and you're living in Kentucky, consider moving somewhere else. California has about 60% of what they have, but California has some unique situations. California currently has 62,000 retirees drawing a pension in excess of $100,000 a year. They have a county administrator who is drawing over $400,000. This can probably give you some clue as to the mismanagement that these civil employees were way over their heads as to what happened. I suspect that $400 million has something to do that she is being paid based on property taxes. So back in the 50s, and somewhere in California, the county she was from, it was not an issue. But as property taxes skyrocketed, her pension, $400,000 a year, they're obligated to pay. So why does this stay in place? As I said, they have good lobbyists. If you're a candidate from Illinois And if you want to get reelected, the unions come to you and say, hey, we'll add to your election campaign fund if you'll make sure that nothing happens to our pension plans. And that's how it's perpetuated. And because of our system, that it's driven by political contributions, and that congressmen and senators and presidents spend 80% of their time and energy just getting reelected, these are people who can help them get reelected. So that's why it perpetuates itself. Now, as I said, the state problem is about a $4 trillion problem. Let's go to the debt clock. I introduced you to that when we talked about the national debt. Let's look at that, and let's go down to the right-hand side here. And you're going to see that the debt clock says that the federal government has about $122 trillion unfunded obligation. Remember, the state was $4 trillion. That's peanuts. 122 trillion. As of today, it's projected that by 2023, that's only 2 years, 3 years away, it's going to be $157 trillion. That's a $5 trillion increase in the obligation. This is crazy. So how is that going to affect you? How is that going to affect the stock market? How is that going to affect our economy? It is a major obligation that has to be met. As again, the only way it can properly be taken care of is, one, to reduce services, increase taxes, number two. Number three, just print more money and go further in debt and push the problem off to some time later when can't imagine what would take care of it. But that's probable, okay? That's what they'll probably do. What scares me is that in order to meet these financial obligations, if I'm managing one of these pensions on the state level, and let's say Kentucky, and I got 34 cents on the dollar to pay my obligations, but I do have 34 cents, okay? What my decision is, how do I invest it? Okay, the charter says I need to be invested in safe investments because these are obligations. I can't put a lot of risk on them. But damn, I can't do it with treasuries paying 1.5%. I can't do it with corporate bonds paying 2.5%. I can't even do it with a diversified portfolio paying 10%. But I could do it if I put everything into, let's say Apple and Amazon and Google and some startup that could really blow through. Wow, if we had only had it last month in Tesla. Wow, that would have been wonderful. That's what's going to happen. And that is what's happening. And that's why you're seeing all this flow of money into the stock market. You've got these people who have 34 cents that they've got to turn into $1. They can't get any more taxes out of you. They can't cut the expenses anymore. They've got to get return on their investment. So they're rolling the dice. They're going to the casinos and saying, hey, this isn't going to stop. This bubble isn't going to burst. The 208 won't happen. 2000 won't happen. This is going to go on forever. Folks, that ain't true. But this is the risk. We all ask ourselves, what is the canary in the coal mine? What is the signal that is going to tell us that this is all going to come collapsing down on us? I think the pension funds are a signal. And their problem is only getting worse. Again, if we go back to our first talk about demographics, we have this huge wave started in 2011 of retirees, 79 million baby boomers retiring. A bunch of them are on pensions. They're federal employees, they're state employees, they're firemen, they're teachers. They're retiring. So the demand for that 34 cents in Kentucky is going to grow dramatically. As that happens, they've got to sell the equities that they have. As they continue to sell the equities that they have, and again, multiply this across all the states, across the federal government, across all the retirees, there's going to be a pullback of liquidity in the market. As that pullback comes out, that means more sellers than buyers, the market goes down. This is happening in real estate. This is now happening in 401ks. This is happening in pension plans. It is the canary in the coal mine. I guess we're coming down to is the title of the video series, The Coming Retirement Crisis. This retirement of the baby boomers has laid out a number of bumps in the road. And when one of those bumps is hit, we're going to have a catastrophic crash. And it's not going to be automobiles. It's going to be our stock market. It's going to be our economy. So you, as an investor, need to prepare for this. If you're one of the baby boomers and you're heavy in the market, you need to be looking for safe havens. You need to cut your expenses. You need to get yourself in a position where you don't need those returns from your equities. If you're in a big house and you aren't going to be able to support it with the lack of income that you might have been getting off of your portfolio in the past, you need to cut your expenses. It's already happening. This is why restaurants are closing. Hell, Ford and General Motors said they had the worst quarter they ever had. Why? Because baby boomers aren't buying new cars every 3 years. They're driving their old car because they are driving as many miles and the cars are getting better. So they're having, all the signs are there. You just need to pay attention to them and prepare for it. So that's my video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. As I've said in the past, I'm in a race. I'm in a race to get to 1 million subscribers. That might sound kind of crazy. I'm only at 1,300. No, you can get me there. You can share this video with the 175 friends you have on Facebook and the 3,000 friends you have on LinkedIn and your email list. This is information that your friends and loved ones need to have, need to understand, and need to prepare for. So help me get to the 1 million, and we'll just keep talking.